Caged by Liane Arno.
I won't reveal my name to you. If I do, I will end up back in that cage. Don't get me wrong, I never complained about my time in prison. After all, I had it better than most. You see, there were only 14 men in my cell of 4 by 5 metres, and in the adjoining cells there were up to 23. Privacy was impossible, with an open toilet for everyone to see, hear and smell while we used it. Our cell was oppressively hot and humid, with not even the gentlest of breezes. All prisoners were naked. Sweat rolled down our bodies and without sufficient water to wash resulted in pustulating sores and constant itching. Sleep was almost unattainable in the confined cell with no bedding. There was so little room that when we tried to sleep we had to lie on the floor side by side in order to all fit in the cramped cell. The cells with more men had to take it in turn. Compared to the adjoining cells, I was better off because every cell got the same size bowl of food, regardless of the number of men they held. Sometimes the food, which was closer to a black soup than anything of substance, was just poured on the floor and we had to try and scoop it up with our hands. The water our captors provided smelt foul. I was so thirsty, so dehydrated, but I avoided drinking it, knowing that to do so would put me over that stinking toilet, adding to the caustic smell. Anything that I wanted, including these rations, I had to pay for. My wife, so brave to endure the taunts of the guards, would arrive with cash that would be kept in safekeeping. The amount of cash was duly noted in the prison's logbooks, less a 20% fee for the privilege. My cellmates were a mixture of alleged robbers, murderers, rapists and gang members. I felt that they had higher morals than those who had arrested me. Some of these men had been in prison for years without a trial. You need to pay for a judge to listen to your case. If a prisoner managed to get enough funds to pay, they would be assigned a judge. If the judge moved to preside over another district, the prisoner would have to pay more money to get another judge. I knew that many would wait many more years without a trial. I've always wanted to stop the oppression and when I was old enough joined a human rights organisation. I had no respect for age or social position, but I did for wisdom. I started to activate for change. I organised many rallies calling for a stop to corruption. I came to realise that my country's model was to imprison peaceful critics of its increasingly authoritarian government. Simply put, if you criticise the government, you will be arrested. I was not alone in believing in free speech. On the day of my arrest, thousands of my fellow countrymen braved the batons and the tear gas and surrounded our human rights organisation headquarters. But nothing could stop the police. They were patient and merciless to those that tried to help us, and after a time the head of my organisation bravely walked out of the building to be arrested or killed, he didn't know, just so the rest of us could continue to fight for freedom of speech. I was in a dilemma. I feared for my life but wanted to continue to support the human rights of my fellow countrymen. I thought I could flee and continue to fight from abroad, but I never got there. The military surrounded my car and I was arrested at the border. At 10 o'clock on the night of my arrest, I found myself handcuffed in the Ministry of the Interior and being interrogated. I refused water or food despite desperately needing something in my stomach as I was afraid of being poisoned. They tried to frighten me for days and denied me sleep. When I was almost spent, an officer entered the room and ordered the handcuffs removed and allowed me to wash. He noticed my yellow ribbon, a symbol of democracy, and asked me how many people believed in this campaign. I was proud to say it was many. Finally, I was allowed to sleep and was locked in a room with only a mat and a mirror which reflected a man I could hardly recognise. The next day, I was taken to my cage. I continued to activate through keeping people informed. I work with many journalists. Most have been threatened, some killed, many more injured. It's a difficult task to ask journalists to cover the hard issues, knowing that this might put them in harm's way. My country insists it has no political prisoners, and yet there are many imprisoned with very creative criminal charges. I don't want to go back to that cage. It's not because of the horror of prison, but inside I have no ability to write. to share the truth of what is happening in this country. Most of us are free from the cage, but it is always there threatening us in the periphery of our consciousness.